Today I am looking for ideas for new things to watch on Netflix, Hulu, Prime Video. So I'm going to give you my top 10 videos or series that I like on those three things on Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon. Tell you why I love them, and hopefully you can give me some ideas because I need something new to watch. So if you have any suggestions for me, please leave them down in the comment box. I'm going to give you my top 10 favorites and tell you a little bit about them, if they're still in production, if the whole series is on there, to get you, hopefully to get you excited about watching something that maybe you've never even heard of. So stay tuned. So the first one on my list is really obvious. Everybody's heard of this, but it's still one of my all-time favorites, is Friends. It's still on Netflix, but it's only on Netflix till the end of this year because Warner Brothers, or WB, is going to be creating their own streaming service, so they're taking it off of Friends. No, so they're taking it off of Netflix. So if you haven't watched the whole series or want to watch it before they take it off Netflix, you better get on it because there's 10 seasons, so it takes a while to get through, and they're taking off Netflix at the end of this year. Sucks. So my next favorite is Sons of Anarchy. It originally aired on the FX channel, and now Netflix and Hulu have it. I like to watch it on Hulu because you don't have to hit "Are you still watching Sons of Anarchy?" after every 2 episodes. Hulu just moves on to the next one. Anyway, so Sons of Anarchy is one of my favorite shows that's ran for 7 seasons, and all 7 seasons are on both Netflix and Hulu. It follows the lives of an outlaw gun-running motorcycle club set in the fake city of Charming, California. The main character, Jax Teller, is played by Charlie Hunnam. Yummy. And he starts out as the vice president, and at the end he ends up being the president of the motorcycle club, but it really talks about, really shows the relationship between the men in the club, the old ladies, or the women who are married or involved with the members of the club. So it really talks about their love, their loyalty to each other, to the club, and to the women in their lives. So there's a lot of relationships. It's a great show. I don't want to give away too much, but it was on for seven seasons. The whole series is on there. So it had Charlie Hunnam was the main character, Ron Perlman, Katie Seagal, who's fantastic, Maggie Siff, and Ryan Hurst. So great show. If you haven't watched it, give it a try. You know, sometimes when people hear, oh, it's about an outlaw gang, motorcycle gang club, they're like, that's not my niche. And while I can understand on the surface if you haven't really looked into it, yes, that is part of it, but it's really, it really focuses on the relationships. So it's one of my all-time favorites. Actually, my daughter, I had heard about it, and my daughter got me started on it. I'm like, I am not interested in that. She's like, no, Mom, really try it. And so I did, and I was hooked after the first episode. I'm giving these to you in no particular order, so I haven't ranked them at all. I do have a favorite, and I'll save that one for last because it's my all-time favorite of any show I've ever watched, and it's still in production, so I'm waiting for season 3 to come out. But right now, let's talk about Weeds. Weeds originally started on Showtime, and now it's on Netflix. The whole series is done, so there's 8 seasons on Netflix, and it starred Mary Louise Parker. She plays Nancy Botwin, who is recently widowed, and she has 2 boys, trying to figure out how to support them. And in order to support them, she starts selling marijuana. And eventually, as the story goes along, her kids find out what she's doing, and it really becomes the family business. Her brother-in-law gets involved, kind of moves in, helps her take care of the boys, run the house, and selling marijuana becomes the family business. Now let's talk about The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. It's on Amazon Prime. It won a bunch of like Golden Globe awards this year for like best actress, best television series. It's still in production. I'm not sure when season 3 is coming out, but the story synopsis is this is set in 1958 in New York City. It's a Jewish housewife, and I think within the first episode or two, her husband leaves her for his secretary. Now, originally he was trying to make it in comedy, doing stand-up, but come to find out that she was really doing a lot of the writing and she was doing all the finagling, you know, getting him in there, trying to get him better time slots. And after she finds out that he is having an affair with his secretary, she has a little too much wine, and she goes to the club, and she just kills it. She gets up on stage and does a stand-up. Nothing's been written. It's all improvised, and she does great. And so that's how the story starts. Like I said, there's only 2 seasons out, still in production. It's won a ton of awards. It's really, really funny. So next on my list of favorites is Hell on Wheels. This originally started on AMC. It's now on Netflix. It went for 5 seasons, and all 5 seasons are on Netflix. So how it starts off is Cullen Bohannon, who's the main character played by Anson Mount. He is returning from war. He's returning from the Civil War, comes home, and he finds that his wife and his son have been murdered. And so he goes off on a revenge quest to find the killers. You know those kind of storylines. But so he kills off the first few guys, finds out who it was, and one of the men that he's looking for is a boss on the railroad. And so that leads him into this life where he becomes a railroad man. And that's how he gets started. And when he is working on the railroad, he meets Common and plays the character called Elam Ferguson. And those two become friends. Now, Elam is a recently emancipated slave, and here Cullen Bohannon is he's a Confederate soldier. And so he is still dealing with like PTSD stuff, and building the railroad becomes his war. That's how he continues. He's on a war to find, he's trying to find the people that murdered, the men who murdered his wife, who raped and murdered his wife, and then still dealing with that PTSD, the railroad becomes his next battle. Now this next series, Scrubs, is also on Hulu. Again, one of my all-time favorites. There's 9 seasons on there. And it is a comedy set in a hospital, a fake hospital called Sacred Heart. This is really, really funny. It's got, let's see. Oh, Donald Faison, who plays Turk. Amazing. Again, the physical comedy that this guy can do is great. And then Zach Braff plays JD. So the storyline is really around JD, and Turk is a close second. They are best friends. They've gone to medical school together. They live together. And so at the beginning of the series, they're both interns starting at Sacred Heart, and JD is a medical intern and Turk is a surgical intern. John C. McGinley plays Dr. Cox, who is basically their teacher, JD's teacher, JD's mentor. And he is, let's just say, rough around the edges, a little cold-hearted on the outside. It's like crunchy on the outside and creamy on the inside. You just have to get to it. He has what I call a lot of Coxisms. I even have a folder on my computer with memes that I have just titled Coxisms, because he's got so many great one-liners that people have put memes to on the internet. I keep a folder of them because I love them. One other thing I forgot to mention about Scrubs is it has great music. I will be watching that and I'm like, oh, I love that song. What's the name of that song? And so I'll go on, I'll go Google it and say, okay, this is season 4, episode 3. What is the name of that song? Because it has really great music. And a lot of times, well, I think every time that I have listened to something on Scrubs that I really like, I'll download it and put it on my iPod. So my next favorite is Walking Dead. Unless you live under a rock, you know about Walking Dead. It's the post-apocalyptic series where the dead have come back to life. And so, again, this is another one where my daughter's like, Mom, you really got to watch this. And I'm like, I am not going to watch a TV series about freaking zombies. And so, again, she convinced me. And again, after the first episode, I was hooked because it becomes about, yes, there's walkers, but and that presents a danger. But again, it goes into the relationships between people that have, they form different groups. They form different groups, and then those relationships within the group, there's a conflict from outside, from the other living people, from the dead, and then there's also conflicts within that group. Great show. If you haven't watched it yet, try to get over the fact that there's zombies. They do try to explain it away that allows the dead to come back to life, kind of. Not their whole brain, just part of the brain that keeps, moving, breathing, needing to eat, that kind of thing. So they do try to explain that. If you haven't watched it, like I said, I was real skeptical at first too. Try to get over the fact that it's about zombies, because you really fall in love with the characters, and it's more about the characters, how they develop, how the groups develop, and the constant struggle for survival from those that are alive and those who are the Walking Dead. Okay, so now I've got 2 more left, and I'll save my absolute favorite for the last, but this is a really, really second close. So my second favorite is Handmaid's Tale. So The Handmaid's Tale is actually based on a book by Margaret Atwood. And what happens is there's the U.S. government is taken over. There is a group, a political group called the Sons of Jacob. And the Sons of Jacob overthrow the U.S. government. I mean, they kill Congress, they kill the president, and they reorganize, everything, all forms of government. They reorganize, well, reorganize is kind of a nice word. They enslave the women. In their new republic that they call Gilead. So now in this new republic, the men control everything. The women are not allowed to read. They're not allowed to write. They're not allowed to drive. They can't handle money. They can't own property. And they are categorized into either they can be they're a wife of the commander, one of the commander. Commander is a person that is now in government, who controls the government. They can be part of the O'Connell wives, who are basically, they help run the domestic part of people's lives. They could be a Martha, and a Martha is a woman who lives in one of the commander's houses, who basically does the cooking and cleaning. She's head of the running of the household with the commander's wife. Or you can become a handmaid. And how you become a handmaid is if you are still fertile. So after the government has been overthrown, they gather up all the fertile women and then assign them to these commanders for the commanders to impregnate them, because the birth rate, the fertility rate has bottomed out because of pollution and radiation. And the kicker is that the wives of the commanders take part in this ritual once a month, trying to get the handmaids pregnant. Okay, we're at number 10. Number 10 is on Netflix, and my absolute favorite show ever, Peaky Blinders. So Peaky Blinders is set in Birmingham, England. It was right after World War I is when this started. And it centers around the Shelby family. And the Shelby family is a crime family. They're a gang, and they are racketeers. So the main character of Peaky Blinders is played by Cillian Murphy, Yum. And he is Thomas Shelby. He is the leader of the family and of this racketeering group. He has come back for more. Again, he also has some PTSD issues. But as he's leading his family, leading his gang, as he's leading his family, he really wants to be more than just a gangster. He wants to grow, and I don't want to give too much after that, because I don't want to give too much because it would give away what he's growing into. Great series. Let's see, it's still in production. There are, I think, 4 seasons out on Netflix, and it's also got Cillian Murphy, Tom Hardy, Helen McCrory, brothers. There's brothers, Joe and Finn Cole. They don't play brothers on the show, but they're brothers in real life, but they do play, they're related, but they're not brothers on the show. Great acting. I really enjoy it. This is a rated R show, not for kids. There's language, and there's some language and some sex scenes. If you've enjoyed any of my suggestions here, please give me a thumbs up, and please hit that subscribe